My name is Kyle Laskowski, and this is a webinar on trying to successfully manage or lead a female athletic team or program if you're a male. So first of all, who I'm not, Anson Dorrance from UNC, legendary coach, 45 seasons coaching the girls team, coached 2 years with the guys before that, a legend in female athletics. I wish I could say I spent time talking to him. I listened to enough of his seminars, webinars, speeches. I feel like I've spent the last few weeks with him. I also spent time talking to Rick Filagera, the SUNY Cortland women's hockey head coach. Also another individual, amazing experience, over 20 years coaching hockey in general, but 15 at the female collegiate level. And Pete Leone from my high school. Pete, once again, started coaching guys. He was basketball, baseball, football, and then he transitioned to girls basketball and softball. Pete won multiple sectional titles. And the one thing all three of these individuals said over and over and over again, they found joy in coaching the girls. Not to say that they dislike coaching guys, but there was a freshness to coaching girls, an enthusiasm, a vigor. Each one of them just could not stop talking about how impactful that was on how they coached. It energized them. I'm also not the coach of a championship team. I have not won a sectional title. I haven't won a league title. I don't even know if I've had a winning record with any of my girls' teams. For my girls' flag football team, the 7, 8, 9-year-olds, they don't keep score, but we won. But I won't count that. I don't need to put that in my hubris. And if I do things right, I might not even be coaching a girls' team this year. I try every year to put the best people in positions to coach my teams. And more often than not, I have female staff members who are qualified, who are willing and able, and ready to lead our teams. And if I can staff with a female, I definitely will. If I don't have a qualified female to coach the team, I move on and I look for a guy. If that guy is qualified, I have no hesitation, no issues ever hiring a guy to coach a girls' team. Not to say I don't want to coach the girls this year, but if I can avoid it, I 100% will, just so I can dedicate my time to everything else. That being said, I absolutely loved coaching every single girls' team I have ever coached. So I am a father, a husband, athletic director, teacher. This year they've got me teaching health, and I'm a coach. I earned my bachelor's in psychology from Carthage College. I practiced football and baseball there. I was not good enough to play. I love the sport though, so I could not stop. After a few years in education, I decided this is what I wanted to do for my career. I got my master's in education from Miami. I got my certified athletic administrator 2 years ago. I was the recipient of the 2023 Under Armour Women of Will Hall of Fame Award last year. And that's honestly the best accolade I've ever gotten. It spoke to what I was trying to do, what I hoped I was accomplishing. And it kind of gives me an extra platform to put my girls where they should be. They should be highlighted. They should be promoted. And that award gave me a chance to do this webinar and talk about my students. I'm the son of an athlete, and I'm not talking about my dad. My mom and her sisters were amazing softball players. I grew up on the softball field with them. My mom taught me how to throw. I grew up with females in athletics. It wasn't something that was new to me when I got to high school. The expectation was girls were playing sports. I loved those Tuesday, Thursday nights going with my mom, my aunts, and watching them play. They didn't play like it was a game. They played to compete. They were trying to win, and they absolutely loved it. That's what I grew up with. I grew up thinking that females in athletics, they competed just as hard as the guys. And I put the last line again, because being a husband, being a father, being an athletic director, a teacher, and a coach, that guides how I live my life. That guides the work I do. It's kind of my beacon. I know if I'm being a good husband, being a good father, being a good athletic director, a good teacher, and a good coach, I'm doing my job. My family's taken care of and happy. My students are taken care of and happy. And ultimately, that's what matters. And if I'm doing all of those things, every box that I have to check is getting hit. So at Rax, we've been around for 13 years. We are growing our programs. Currently, we offer these sports for our females. Modified JV varsity volleyball, varsity soccer, and club golf are brand new this year. We weren't competitive, but we were enthusiastic. We have basketball at all levels. We have varsity cheer. And this year, for the first time, we're starting bowling and an all-girl esports team. And in the spring, we have modified and varsity track, varsity flag football, and we're continuing with golf. So we went from having 6 opportunities for girls to compete to at least 12, and I'm trying to get up to 15. Why female athletics? Graduation rates for student athletes are higher across the board. That is statistically proven in a dozen studies in every state. If you are a student athlete in high school, you're going to graduate. It's a simple fact. Young females, they need to look up and see leaders in sports. It's great seeing LeBron. It's great seeing Stephon Diggs. It's cool seeing all these male athletes. There aren't enough Candace Parker commercials. There aren't enough female athletes highlighted for these young ladies to look up to. So the more athletes we can put in the positions to compete now, the more we have at that next level, the more girls that are going on to play college sports, maybe more girls that are going on to play professional sports, more girls that they're recognized for what they're doing. We just need to provide more role models. And along with all the NIL money that's coming into sports, there are new jobs and opportunities in athletics. And if we have young ladies involved in athletics early, chances of them staying in the field and finding success in these jobs and new opportunities, it's huge. My friend has a wife who worked in an athletic department at a college in Rochester. She is now running their NIL department, and she never thought it would be something that was even an opportunity for her, but this new position opened and she just fit right in. It was perfect for her. She's happy as can be. And this doesn't happen if she's not in the sports world. So the more young ladies we can get involved now, the better we will be in the long run. And lifelong experiences. Ultimately, that's why we all play sports. We all want to experience something, whether it's to compete, whether to be on a team. The experiences we have in high school, they'll last forever. It's important that we give these young ladies the opportunity to have a team, to be able to compete. I'm looking at up in the corner, my girl Jackie holding the mascot head. She's amazing. She had never had any interest in being a mascot, didn't want to do anything athletic. But then when we got the mascot costume in, she started to think about, maybe I could do this. I want to do this. She is the best mascot I've ever seen outside of a professional stadium. She gets into it. If you just see her, you see somebody who's been playing the mascot game for years. And she's got somebody else who's doing it for her next year. I can't reveal an identity. But this young lady wants to look at opportunities going forward for being a potential mascot. And I know that kind of sounds ridiculous in all the career fields and choices that are out there, but there are mascots at every major college. That's a scholarship opportunity that maybe this young lady, maybe she'll get. And I cannot tell you how happy that makes me to see her just running around in that costume. She's good, she has fun, and she makes every event better with what she does. This is my team across all seasons, whether it's fall, winter, spring, going into the summer. These girls run my athletic department. These are my women of will, my student leadership squad. They are the backbone of my athletic council. These young ladies, they run my building. I have the title, but these are all the athletic directors of Rochester Academy Charter School. They keep me online. They keep me going. they're the creative energy behind everything we do. They run the pep rallies, they run the Women of Will days. These girls rock, and they are so enthusiastic about everything they get involved in. It gives me that energy to help. I want to match their level of commitment to everything they do. They make me better at my job. And girls flag football, my favorite sport, not just sport to coach or sport. This is my favorite sport. These young ladies are absolutely phenomenal. It's an official sport now in New York State. It's going to be in the Olympics in 2028, I believe. Girls flag football is growing so fast, and to see the skills that these girls are developing, it's unbelievable. I got to coach. Go back. I got to coach the Section 5 versus Section 6 All-Star game last year, and it was at Highmark Stadium, home of the Buffalo Bills. We played at halftime of the Bills-Broncos game, and these were girls from a dozen different schools, never knew each other. We got to spend 3 hours together before the game. That was our practice time, and for the first half hour, we just talked. We didn't touch a football. We didn't go over plays. We talked about how amazing it was to be there, the experience, what we wanted to do. And I asked each one of the girls what their goal was for the day, how they wanted to do the day. And the execution was phenomenal. We ran 10 plays. We scored 2 touchdowns. I have never experienced something like that. We were in front of 42,000 people, and these girls scored touchdowns, and I thought they were going to cry. This is the Rax team. This was the first team in New York State football for the girls to score a touchdown. Could not be prouder of them. And as a group, they taught me how to deal with female athletes. I practiced college football. I was a quarterback. I could throw pretty well. I went to a few of their practices early on, and I was not throwing them the ball the way I could. And a few of them knew that I could throw because they see me throw with the boys. And they weren't offended, but they kind of started to give me the business. Why aren't I throwing the ball? Coach, throw us the ball. What, you want to hurt? Like, making me want to throw them the ball. Like, I made the mistake of treating them like girls instead of treating them like athletes. And that was the last time I made that mistake. The girl in the leather jacket, Destiny. She is on my 7, 8, 9-year-old boys flag football team. She doesn't play with the girls. Destiny is a rock star. That leather jacket is her. She would play games in that if we let her. That little girl does not feel pain. She does not care if the boy she's matched up against is 3 times her size. I've never seen a competitor like her. We play sharks and minnows at the end of every practice. And each time one of the boys gets flags, they're excited. They throw it up in the air. They hold it as it's a trophy. Destiny will get 6, 7, 8 flags and run them over to me. And she wants me to hold them. And she knows how proud I am of her. And she wants to keep showing me. She makes me smile more than when my son scores a touchdown. And not to say I'm not proud of him, but that little girl and her energy and her commitment and just love of the sport, it makes me smile. It makes me happy. It makes me want to coach her more. And then at the other end of the spectrum, Miss London, sectional champ in track, one of the most amazing individual female athletes I've ever been around. London played basketball. She's in here in the flag football picture. London, she was a bad teammate at times. She was intense, and she expected her teammates to match that intensity. When they couldn't, she wouldn't try to understand. She wouldn't ask why. She wouldn't really care. She would get mad, and she would talk to them like she was chastising them. Not a teammate. She was coming down on them. She also played football with the boys and struggled to be a teammate to her females when it came for that season. Amazing athlete, but she struggled with the family, with the sisterhood. She struggled to build a community with her teammates, and she was kind of on an island at times. There were bus rides when she would put herself alone, and all the other girls were having a great time, and London was by herself. And it always kind of stuck out to me that the most athletic girl on the team couldn't get with the group. And I talked to Pete Leone about that, and he kind of said the same thing, that if there's a girl who she's so far above the rest as far as skill, ability, expectations, it's going to be tougher for her to be a part of that group, because she sees herself as potentially better, potentially different, but she sees herself as kind of an outsider. And for a lot of girls, they struggle with that. Some college coaching stats. 58% of head coaches are males for women's sports. 51% of the assistants are males. This does not hold true to what Title IX asked for. Before Title IX started, 90% of all female coaches, or all coaches for female sports, were females. After Title IX and all that money started coming in and coaching salaries increased, guys became interested in these programs all of a sudden and forced out highly qualified female coaches. This is slowly changing. We're slowly starting to get back to not equality or balance, but to where females are coaching female teams. 66% of Division I basketball coaches are men. That's only 34% coached by females. Terrible. But it's not going to change. Not completely. Males still dominate female sports landscape from top to bottom. It's a microcosm of our society. It's not going to change, not at the pace we want. We just have to figure out how to deal with it. The picture here is our volleyball girls. They went to St. John Fisher. St. John Fisher is coached by a female, 2 female assistants, 1 male assistant. The male assistant there has never tried to dominate the program, has never tried to take over. He's a part of the puzzle, and he knows it, and he appreciates his role. All right, so now we're going to get into why you guys are here. The actual differences. What can we do? How do things help? So physically, our brains are different. The female hippocampus is bigger than the male hippocampus. The hippocampus is involved in learning, memorization, and emotions tied to basic survival functions. Female brains also communicate better with each other. The left and right hemisphere, they talk more. In general, female brains, they're more efficient. Male brains are physically bigger, more volume per se. The amygdala for men is bigger. That is the fight or flight center. Response to fear, response to gotta battle. The temporal and occipital lobes are also bigger. That is spatial awareness and your visual kind of processing. So male brains, they're different than female brains. They're wired differently. Our gears are not necessarily connected. For females, emotion is involved in everything. One of my favorite kind of webinars that I listened to on male-female communication described it. Male brains they're like boxes. You can have a sports box, you can have a work box, you can have a family box. And when you're in that moment, you deal with what's in that box. Or maybe times things bleed in and you can't fully compartmentalize like you would like. But for a lot of males, the ability to box things off or compartmentalize situations and deal with them when you need to, that's how we function. Females don't necessarily have that same ability. You can't box off emotions. Everything's connected. If one of my girls is having a terrible day across the board, boyfriend's giving her hell, she's struggling with school, grades are bad, mom and dad are upset with her, there is no way she's coming into practice and can box off everything she's dealing with and just think about flag football or soccer or volleyball. It's not how girls are wired. Guys are wired to be able to focus on one thing at a time. Do this, do that, do this. It's not the same for young ladies, for females. There's a connectivity in their brain that's different. It's more efficient. The corpus callosum is denser in females. That's the part of your brain that talks to each other, your left and right hemisphere. Females are more efficient with communication. All that girl stuff. And this is probably for guys, and please correct me if I'm wrong, one of the most uncomfortable things you can deal with when coaching females. And maybe not even coaching females. Maybe you have a daughter who's turning into a teenager. You're going to deal with the menstrual cycle. As a coach, if you are coaching a 20-girl team for 3 months, that's potentially 60 menstrual cycles you're going to have to deal with. And when I say deal with, I mean plan around, practice around. Maybe you're willing to modify practices on a given day. But that period is going to happen for each one of your girls pretty consistently. And if you go into a season ignoring it or pretending it's not real, you're going to have something happen. There's going to be a situation you're not mentally ready for, and it's going to mess things up. The first year I coached a girls' team, I was not prepared. My daughter was only 7 or 8 years old yet, so I wasn't thinking female things. And then we're at an away game with white uniforms, and one of my girls pulls me aside and says she has an issue and she can't play. And I didn't even think about it. Didn't even cross my mind until the assistant coach came up and told me. And I make sure for every away game now, I bring extra shorts. Anytime one of those girls has a white uniform, I make sure we have black undershorts as an option. And 6, 7, 8 years ago, I would have never considered that as something that was necessary. I might not have even been comfortable talking about it. But if you're going to coach at the high school level, the collegiate level, that is a very real issue, and it's going to alter sometimes what you do. If you have a very heavy practice plan for a Wednesday, and maybe your assistant or team captain tells you, you've got a few girls who it's that time of the month now, or we think we're close. Maybe you alter practice a little. Maybe you lighten things up. Maybe it's a film day instead. But the worst thing you can do is individualize those practice and make those girls do something different. A mistake I will never make. And it wasn't because I figured it out. It was because one of the young ladies told me. Communication styles, naturally different for guys and girls. Males, I or me focused. It's all about me. They're direct. They're logical. What is the problem? How do I solve it? And for a lot of guys, especially in sports, you're loud. You're assertive. Coaches are loud. They're yelling. Guys are also hierarchical. No team is going to listen to that player who barely made the team when their captain's waiting to talk. It's how guys view things. We want to follow the strong. We want to follow the smart. We want to follow the star. And for a lot of guys, winning solves problems. It doesn't matter if we don't like each other as long as we're winning a championship. Kobe and Shaq did it for years. For female communication style, it's a us or a we. It's not always as direct, and sometimes their communication involves emotion because emotion is key in how females operate and how they see the world and how they are successful. Females are actively listening to everything. They want more information. They want detail. And they want the relationship. They want to feel the inclusivity. I think that's the best thing about a girls' team is it's more than a team. It's a family. Those girls generally care about everyone on that team. And whether or not you are a starter or a sub or the team manager, you're a part of the unit and you matter. And that's not necessarily true for guys' teams. For guys, you got to prove that you can be on that team before you're really accepted. And once again, I'm going back to Pete Leone. The one thing he really said that I can't think of anything else. For his female teams, the journey was always more important than the end of the season. It didn't matter so much if they won sectionals or if they got bounced out in the first round or if they won states. That season was what mattered to them. And Pete made it very clear. He did everything possible to make it about the entire season, to make it about the entire team, to make sure that the offseason mattered, that his girls knew he was available after that season ended. And for our girls, success looks different. It just does. Now, girls want to win. Female coaches want to win. They want to compete, and they get beyond intense. Shellanese right here, screaming for her 4x4 teammate to finish. Screaming. Needed that girl to win. There are also girls who they want to be on a team. Our track team is a great example. Out of this entire picture, there's maybe 5 kids who are competitive in their sport. These girls know they're not going to score points for the team, but they love being on the team. They love being involved. They love being a part of the group. These pumpkins were made by the girls' volleyball team. At the end of the season, they wanted to have a team day. They asked if they could cancel practice. We went out, we bought them pumpkins, we got some paint. And they had a blast for 2 hours. They were smiles, they were giggles. They went out the next day and they won. We got rid of pre-practice. They were in a good mood. They were happy. They were a team. And it showed. White Men Can't Jump, one of my favorite movies. Guys play better when they're angry. Some of us. But the part of that scene was he had to make Wesley Snipes angry to get him to play better. Our young ladies don't operate that way. Not all of them. Candace dancing in front of 40,000 people because she just made a tackle. Happy as can be. Loving life. You can't really see it in the picture, but Felicia runs smiling ear to ear. She doesn't care if she wins. She doesn't care if she loses. She smiles. She is a happy kid, and she is there to be with her friends. Don't. I made this mistake 3 years in a row. I scheduled my volleyball girls senior night against an opponent that I knew we could beat. We beat them in the past. Every year we beat them. I know their program, so I'm not worried about a 6-foot girl coming up and just ruining everything. And 3 years in a row, our girls get so emotional for their seniors, they lost winnable matches over and over and over again. And we asked them why and what's going on. And that first match, they don't have their ability to control their emotions. They're still so wrapped up in that ceremony and knowing they're losing their seniors, they just can't reset. So they asked me for more time. They asked for their senior ceremony to be earlier. Or if it can't be earlier, put it against an opponent we probably won't beat. And that was odd to me. But when I thought about it, and I really thought about why they would want that, they care more about the senior day and their seniors being honored and recognized than they cared about the match itself. They wanted their teammates, those senior leaders, to be recognized, and they didn't really care about the match afterwards necessarily. That was a bonus. That senior night was something big for them, and they struggled to reset their emotions to game mode. So some tips. Hopefully we do most of these, but if not, have a female on your staff. Cannot say how important that is. Whether it's a team manager, an ex-player, having a female to triage issues, to kind of be that intermediary between the locker room and the coach's office. Invaluable. Define roles. Female athletes love to be told not necessarily what to do, but what their job is. When you watch film, do not watch an entire film. Unlike guys who need to see what they do wrong to believe it, if you watch an entire film with your female team, they're not going to look at the good things. They're going to pick out the bad things they do and hang on that. And they won't be able to, even if you're telling them, hey, Candace, great job on this. Loved what you did here. Amazing play. For her, she's still wondering, why did I do this 3 plays ago? So, what has been recommended and what I found ridiculously effective, make a highlight reel and go through and make sure you point out what each girl has done well and how they're doing their job, how they're being good teammates. But make sure that you do that. And that leads us right into our next two: daily affirmations and praising the group, not just the star. Everybody loves to be appreciated. Everybody loves to hear how good of a job they're doing. The girls need to hear it every single day. And you can't just tell your star point guard or your outside hitter or your quarterback how good they are. We know they're doing good. That's why they're in that role. You got to tell everybody why they're doing so well, why they're being a good teammate, why they're invaluable to the team. Because for those girls, that community is the team. If you've got a rocky boat, if you've got players who are not happy, you've got an unhappy team. Year after year, I see successful teams are the ones who love each other. They love the locker room time. They love that bus ride. They enjoy each other's company and they're friends. Before, during, and after the season, those are the ones who are the best. The teammates who they go beyond being teammates. They care about each other. Another big one, took me a long time to learn and master. Be careful with your jokes. You can make a comment to a guy, hey, nice shoes, dude, look like clown shoes. They'll laugh, walk it off. Maybe they'll make another joke to you. If you say that to a young lady, hey, nice shoes, kind of look like clown shoes, you just destroyed her self-esteem for that day. You just took something she might have pride in and you smashed it against the wall. And who knows? We're dealing with emotions, and maybe you hit her on that wrong part of the day. Maybe her boyfriend just dumped her. Maybe something else happened, and you just made a comment about her shoes. And now you went from being her favorite coach to just another person who's picking on her that day. So be careful with your jokes and your little comments. And team goal setting. I love that one. As a coach, do not set goals for the team. Let them set the goals for themselves. And then you align the goals to be what the team needs. Everybody's going to have their own individual goals. The team goals are what we focus on. What can we do better as a group? How do we get everyone engaged? How do we get everyone involved? And that takes us into our leadership styles. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because we've been harped on about coaching styles and leadership styles. But I truly think that your coaching style, your leadership style, it's going to dictate how these young ladies see you, how they feel about you, and ultimately what you're getting out of your team. We've all had that transactional coach, that person who you're playing for them, but you know they don't care. A transactional coach is someone who they're there for the short term. They're there for the season. When the season's over, maybe they're around a little bit, but you can't count on them. A transactional coach uses playing time as a reward. He is the leader on that team. She's going to tell you what to do. He's the boss. Whoever is the coach, they're in charge. And it's a win at all cost mentality. And that often affects sportsmanship. And for a lot of kids, if you have a transactional coach, it's really hard to learn love of the game. Because if you're not getting paid with playtime, how can you really love it? Especially if that coach is only focusing on the starters, the players that impact the actual game. You're going to lose half of your team. Ideally, we are all transformational leaders. We are coaching not to win or lose, because we want to have a lifelong impact on our players. Winning and losing is secondary. If we can coach life skills, how to deal with adversity, how to be a good teammate, how to focus, we're creating better student athletes, better adults. We're not creating better football players, better basketball players. That doesn't help anyone unless you're going to the pros. We know the stats on going to the pros. So most of what we do isn't to coach to get our kids to make $1 million. It's coaching to get them to be successful as adults. And with the young ladies, empower them. Tell them what they're doing that is good. Put them in leadership roles. Once again, I cannot tell you how helpful my WOW squad is for me. I think Rasheen's already been on one webinar with me, but that girl, she's already been in the door twice seeing if I'm okay. She loves being a leader. And the young ladies who aren't a part of her group, they cannot wait to be brought into that circle because of what it means. It's something that matters in our building. And I take pride in that because we're building a program, but we're building a sports family. And I mean, like I said, I am not a sectional winner. I am not a championship winner. My career record for coaching, well under 500. But I know for a fact my girls will run through a wall for me. And even 2, 3, 4 years after graduation, they want to know what's going on. And I want to know what's going on with them. And I think that really is what ultimately matters. We're not coaching boys. We're not coaching girls. We're coaching children, young adults. And the influence that a coach has, so impactful. And I think when we as coaches, as leaders realize that, we start doing things for the right reason. And it's not about winning or losing. It's about guiding and nurturing. That's all I've got. I'll open it up to questions.